Anse, Gananaskamo, Nananaskamo, and Napsis, Nanahiowak, Upsis, Rachel Thunder. Hello and thank you. My name is Rachel Thunder. I'm Plains Cree Nihiowak Treaty 8, member of the American Indian Movement, Little Earth Protectors, and resident here in the South Minneapolis Indigenous community. I had a hard time kind of figuring out what I was gonna say today, so I spent some time this morning writing down exactly what happened yesterday. I'm gonna read that to you now. Yesterday at sunrise, members of the American Indian Movement, Little Earth Protectors, Indigenous community members, and allies entered the gates outside of the Sears warehouse at East 27th Street and Longfellow Avenue, beginning a ceremonial occupation of the roof depot. We lit a spirit fire, held a sunrise ceremony, filled our pipes, put up a teepee, and began making camp through ceremony. We want to thank all of those who supported and helped our cause. The outpouring of support from community and allies was beautiful, uplifting, and unifying of the South Minneapolis community. During the entire occupation, there was never any drugs, alcohol, weapons, or violence present at Camp Nenoocaasi. The prayer and ceremony held at the site was led by Indigenous community members for the betterment, protection, and health of all South Minneapolis community, the land, and future generations. The entire Minneapolis Police Department encircled the neighborhood at 6:15 p.m., shutting down Hiawatha, 26th, 27th, 28th, and the footbridge entrance. Minneapolis Police Department surrounded Camp Nenoocaasi and ordered us to disperse within 10 minutes. The police department used a saw to cut through the fence at the south entrance of the camp, and police began detaining Indigenous aunties and women around 7:15 p.m. Myself, along with 7 other Indigenous relatives in prayer and ceremony, were arrested yesterday evening, arresting aunties, crying and begging to leave us be in our ceremony. I was kneed into the MPD cruiser, injuring my right leg. No rights were ever read to us. We were charged with misdemeanor trespassing, and no paperwork was given to us once released, and they dropped us off in the street outside of the Homeward Bound shelter instead of taking us downtown, quote, in order to control the optics. We know the order for the raid on the Camp Nenoocaasi came directly from Mayor Jacob Frey's office. We know the city is scared and intimidated by the power of our people, the power of our communities, and the power of our ceremonies. This show of force and violence from the Minneapolis Police Department under the city's orders is testament to their fear. Our occupation was nothing but prayerful, peaceful, sober, safe, and unifying. The Minneapolis Police Department has stated that they will not show up for nonviolent crimes. So I asked the city and I asked the police department what part of this ceremony was violent. This was a prayer and ceremony for our people, for the land, for our communities, and for the well-being of all people. I also ask, how can there be charges of trespassing to Indigenous peoples on stolen, unceded treaty land? The United States government's revoking of the Dakota treaties, but maintaining its claim to all the lands included in those treaties, represents perhaps the ultimate legal sleight of hand. The famous analogy applies here of a real estate agent transaction in which the buyer decides after the closing to stop making the mortgage payments, but still occupies and claims to own the house. The 7.5-acre parcel of land, known as the Roof Depot site, sits in what has been dubbed the Arsenic Triangle, a part of the South Minneapolis contaminated by a long defunct pesticide manufacturer. The site and surrounding neighborhood was declared a federal Superfund site in 2007, and the United States Environmental Protection Agency removed 50,000 tons of contaminated soil in the area. As the indigenous community, we have exhausted the system's protocols and avenues of accountability to prevent demolition of the roof depot that would release arsenic directly into our communities. We are standing together united and in solidarity to say that we do not want the city to demolish the roof depot. We want to have control of the site to create an environmentally friendly food center to feed our people and boost our economy. During the occupation, we were not trespassing because there is no trespassing on stolen land. The only trespassing that occurred is the militant, aggressive, and racist raid that took place by the Minneapolis Police Department on a peaceful and prayerful ceremony held by indigenous community members. Tomorrow at 8 a.m., we invite all of our relatives and allies to caravan with us from the Little Earth United Tribes to the City Council meeting. Let our voices be heard loudly, clearly, and unified. We are calling on and asking all of our indigenous organizations, leaders, and politicians to stand with your people, community, and nations against this environmental, cultural, and sovereign injustice. We are firm in our prayer to stop the roof depot demolition, to ensure a healthy future for our community, our people, and children, and to demand that these militant camp evictions and raids cease immediately in the city of Minneapolis. Thank you.
This letter has been written on behalf of the Metro Urban Indian Directors Group, a collaborative of over 25 American Indian organizations operating within the Twin Cities metropolitan area of Minnesota. The purpose of this communication is to express that the Metropolitan Urban Indian Directors Group collectively oppose the Hiawatha Expansion Project proposal by the City of Minneapolis. The membership of MUD believes that there is a better community-led green initiative to be pursued that will better mitigate the negative social determinants of health caused by environmental racism. Additionally, MUD supports the nonviolent direct action led by our community members to fight the environmental and racial injustices currently being imposed upon the American Indian community and the Phillips neighborhood. Our membership believes that such community-led civic actions are directly protected by the United States Constitution, Bill of Rights, regarding the right to peacefully assemble and the right for citizens to petition their government. Further, MUD formally denounces the militaristic actions taken by the Minnesota Police Department on the evening of February 21st, 2023, to dismantle a peaceful and ceremonial occupation of the roof depot site. American Indian people in the Phillips neighborhood suffer from the poorest health outcomes and highest rate of health disparities in the state of Minnesota. Environmental racism is, I'm going to define in our terms, environmental racism is any policy, practice, or directive that differentially affects or disadvantages individuals, groups, or community based on race, while localizing such harmful policies directly into the geographic spaces where they and their families reside. It is a well-documented fact that communities of color and low-income communities are disproportionately impacted by polluting industries and lax regulation of these industries. And the city of Minneapolis and the actions the Minneapolis government, the city of Minneapolis and the actions taken throughout the years have reinforced this fact. Environmental justice is supported by decent paying jobs and secure jobs, quality schools and recreation, decent housing and adequate health care, democratic decision-making, and finally, personal empowerment. A community of environmental justice is one in which both cultural and biological diversity is respected, and where there is equal access to institutions and ample resources to grow and prosper. All of the above play a direct role in determining social indicators of health and wellness for the urban American Indian community in the Phillips neighborhood. One of our own nonprofit social impact organizations has been impacted by the arsenic mitigation during the rebuilding of Nenoocaasi. A green zone is a geographically based policy initiative aimed at improving health and supporting economic development using environmentally conscious efforts in communities that face cumulative effects of environmental pollution, as well as social, political, and economic vulnerability. The City of Minneapolis' website defines the roof depot as a South Side green zone. It defines a green zone as a group of neighborhoods with high levels of environmental pollution and racial, political, and economic marginalization, and goes on to state that the City of Minneapolis has been working with residents in these neighborhoods to achieve environmental justice by addressing environmental issues and energizing the economy. And this is on the City of Minneapolis' website. In the spirit of healing from the historical environmental racism and looking to a future of environmental justice, MUD stands in solidarity with our community by espousing the following values by which our membership hold dear. We affirm the sacredness of our Mother Earth and the interdependence of all of creation and the inherent right to be free from ecological destruction. We demand that public policy be based on mutual respect and justice for all peoples, free from any form of discrimination or bias. We mandate the right to ethical, balanced, and responsible uses of land and renewable resources in the interest of a sustainable planet for humans and all living things. We demand the right to participate as equal partners at every level of decision-making, including needs assessments, planning, implementation, enforcement, and evaluation. We affirm the right of all workers to a safe and healthy work environment without being forced to choose an unsafe livelihood and employment. We consider governmental acts of environmental injustice a violation of international law, the Universal Declaration on Human Rights, and the United Nations Convention on Genocide. We recognize the special legal and natural relationship of American Indian people in the United States government through treaties, agreements, compacts, and covenants affirming sovereignty and self-determination. We affirm the need for urban policies to clean up and rebuild our cities and in balance with nature, honoring the cultural integrity of all of our communities, and provided fair access for all for the free range of resources. Finally, it is the desire of MUD for the City of Minneapolis to realign their activities to meet these stated values shared by MUD and our community in the hopes of arriving at a co-created solution to these issues that benefit all of our residents. And we say thank you. Pinagigi, Miigwech, Wiblahan, Pilamaye.
And just because Mangdude. So my name is Jolene Jones. My spirit name is Wedberg Woman. So I'm just here to give a little history. First of all, I was the interim director and the president of LIRA when all of this started. And I got a phone call from somebody, I can't remember. I won't say names because they still work for the city. I got a phone call and they said, Jolene, why aren't you at this meeting? I said, what meeting? They said this meeting about the roof depots, Waterworks sent out invitations. I said, well, I didn't get one, but here I come. So I went to the meeting and I stood in a meeting about East Phillips neighborhood and there were 2 other minorities in there. And I was like, we're the most diverse community in the state of Minnesota. Why is there only 2 other people here? And found out they were both interpreters. So I like, where are our people? And they said, we sent out notices. I told them, no, you did. They argued with me in the meeting. Yes, we did. I said, no, you didn't. I read everything I get. That's the type of person I am. So they went in their computers to prove that I was a liar and came up and apologized and said, sorry, we missed Little Earth. How did you miss 212 households with individual addresses? It was purposely done. So then I asked them about the Latino community. I said, well, what did you send them? Well, we sent them this. I said, well, did you send it in Spanish? No. What about the Somalian community? Did you send it out in Somalian? No. They only sent out the paper in English. So you know what our brothers and sisters did who can't speak English, they threw that shit away. In the most diverse community in the state of Minnesota, that's what they did. They sent out all their flyers in English, but they missed all of Little Earth. Tell me that's not purposeful, you know? So, and Cass is right. So after that meeting, and after the little bit of heck I raised, they said they would create this committee called YAC. And each community, the Somalian community, the indigenous community, all of them got 2 members on it. And that's when I told Cash, you know, this is a great opportunity for you to learn. She forced me. I'm not thankful. You know, So I just wanted to give that history of that this battle started because they were not even trying to include us in it. None of the BIPOC community members. And then, you know, she don't want to name names, but I will. Andrea Jenkins is the one who asked my niece if she wanted clean air or clean water. And hell yeah, we want both. We're talking about our children. They think we're giving up. We don't give up. This is our future we're talking about. When we got 14, 15-year-olds dying from heart problems, that was happening in a white community, the health department would be there trying to monitor that. Do you guys know that Smith Boundary, right now, they do their own pollution testing. Nobody comes in and tests it. They do their own. So in the summertime at Little Earth, when you're standing outside and that big black cloud of smoke goes by and your kids can't breathe and you can't breathe and you go inside, they tell us it's nothing, that the Smith Boundary monitors their own shit. This is what we deal with. And then we got a mayor who wants this to be a children-friendly city and all of that. And he turns around and makes us promises when he's running for office and he betrays us. You know, he betrays us. And then he sends, if any of you seen the video last night, I didn't even know Minneapolis had that many damn cops anymore. You know? And they came, and I'm gonna shut up there because that's not my piece, that's Rachel's. So thank you guys very much.
My name's Cassie Holmes. My spirit name is Niman Makwaikwe, for Bears Woman. So I do have some talking points so I don't go crazy because I can talk forever and go all over the place. But I will start with a personal history that someone mentioned. That was my child at 16 who passed away from an environmental injustice. His name was Trinidad Flores. It's always hard. It's almost been 10 years, but I keep telling myself I'm not gonna cry this time, I'm gonna get it out, but I'm not the only one who suffered. My best friend right there at the end, I always talk about a young lady who had given birth to a second child and died from a heart condition she wasn't born with. That's her child. Her name was Phillips. She went in, she just didn't feel good, and then she didn't ever come out of the hospital. We have relatives younger, 16, even younger, that died from asthma attacks and heart conditions in this community, and even some elders. So I just wanted to get that personal story out of the way. This is why I really became involved in a fight. My Aunt Jolene kind of pushed me. She's like, you're gonna go sit on that committee and then you're gonna come back and report to Little Earth what's going on. And I was like, okay, and then I go there and I just got educated. I got educated from community members like Karen Clark and Carol Pass and a lot of other people who've been doing this fight a lot longer in the community. Along with my Aunt Jolene, she educated me as well. But I do have some talking points and I will get to them. My main talking point, I'm gonna talk history. And like Robert talked about, you know, they did have a guidelines advisory committee. That was what the city first proposed. We called it GAC. After the harassment of our, by one of the city facilitators, at Karen Clark, who at the time was our state representative, like he walked towards her, finger pointing and telling her she didn't know what the hell she was talking about, but he didn't understand that that was the bill she wrote. It's an environmental justice bill that's specific to East Phillips because of the pollution. So any entity that comes in has to report what kind of cumulative pollution they're adding on in East Phillips. So let me back up. Then after that, it became HAC, at a Hiawatha Advisory Committee. So going into this meeting with the city, we understand that they already came into this meeting with the community with their own plans. Millions already spent on the plan. So they never came in with the true intentions of involving community and our ideas. They came in with their plans and they wanted us to agree and like what plans of theirs we like best. And we didn't like that. And then with the assault of Karen Clark, we decided, you know what, we're not gonna be a part of this. We're gonna start our own group. And that's where East Phillips Neighborhood Institute came from. And there was a whole bunch of us. We know that the city of Minneapolis and polluters have put many sources of toxic pollution in East Phillips. We like to say that we're their sacrifice zone because that's how they treat us. We have bituminous roadways and Smith Foundry there. And even though we're highly polluted and have high rates of asthma, so does North Side with the HERC and all that stuff that's going on over there. They are also a North Side green zone. So we are tired, the community's tired of being a sacrificial zone. We're tired of being a dumping zone. We are tired of burying our children because of this. So we started EPNI and we started the fight against the city. We tried to work with them and it wasn't gonna happen. So we started fighting them. We're suing the city. EPNI is, and I myself am, as an individual, am suing the city. We lost, but we are in appeals court right now. We do have some of the highest rates of asthma, lead poisoning, heart disease. And that's not something we're just saying because we're physically burying our children. We're saying this because we have science to back it up. We have the Department of Transportation that talks about how many cars come in our community, which is over 1,000 daily, 100,000 daily, including diesel trucks that contribute to the asthma in our community. What we want, first and foremost, is the city to not demolish that building because of the arsenic that's underneath. And it's so poisonous it will hurt us. And we know that it's poisonous because in the past they dug up over 500 homes and businesses, their soil. They dug that up because it was so toxic in our community, they had to get rid of it. And they're trying to say now that the mayor told me, I don't think this arsenic is that bad. That's what he looked me in the face and said. And I said, we are talking about the same arsenic that was dug up years ago, right? With people wearing hazmat suits. Yeah. I said, but you don't think it's that toxic? He didn't have an answer. We just want, that's, first thing is we don't want that, and we don't want them to bring in, and it's in their own plan, in their website, 888 vehicles, including diesel trucks. This, they keep saying they're gonna give us jobs, but if they're gonna do that, they don't need to build 888 car space, truck space. I had a council member ask me to my face, do you want clean water or do you want clean air? And this was downtown in the city council chambers. And I said, I didn't know I had to decide that because I want both, I deserve both, and so does my community. And then she said, but don't you guys want jobs? Well, hell yes we do, but jobs we can be proud of, jobs that aren't killing our families while we're working. We want green jobs, green training, green education, green housing. That's what we want. And we know it can be successful because Little Earth on their farm hired kids, and it's been so successful that the kids keep growing that want to work in our farm, and they earn their own money and they buy their own school clothes. And they learn so much, and that's just a stepping stone to what this could be, what this East Phillips urban farm could be. I will say this, every time we got a chance to meet with the mayor or the council, they always threw in our face, where's all the BIPOC people here? We see a lot of white men, we see Cass, but where's all the rest of the BIPOC people? And my only answer to them was, we don't get paid to sit in meetings like you guys. We have jobs, like I have to flex hours. I have a kid on my hip at almost every meeting. I have 4 kids at home. I don't get paid to sit in meetings like you. And I have to flex my job, and then I have to decide, am I gonna lose my job? Am I gonna have enough to pay my bills so I can go attend this meeting with you guys? That's the reality of it. But I did tell them, but trust and believe, when my community is needed, they're gonna show up and they're gonna show out. So trust and believe. And I told them that and I warned them. And this is where we are today. Thank you.